everyone, it's Dr. Izzy calling again. So today it's a little bit of a sort of a nice, easier pace video. We're going to be going for a little bit of a Q&A. So a while ago I put out on my Instagram, I was like, does anyone have any burning, desiring questions of their friendly, neighborhood, local, chronically online vet? For any questions they deem fit for animals, myself, anything. In this economy, free vet advice.
It's free real estate.
For context, by the way, for any stories that are featured in this video throughout any of these questions, they are all disguised, basically. So any breeds, names, descriptions, or everything have been altered so they're not recognizable, but they are true stories. Tell us about doggy dementia. Paloma was recently diagnosed with it. So doggy dementia is definitely a thing. It's not strictly called dementia, but it is what we call cognitive decline. Just like any animal when they become older, your neurological activity can slow, there can be damage to the peripheral little teeny tiny capillaries that feed the tissue of the brain, and it just generally means that your cognitive function declines over time. It can lead to a number of different symptoms in animals, so you can see in dogs, they may circle a lot in the house for no reason. They may be eating and become just distracted by nothing. They may wake up in the middle of the night barking for no reason. They may also sometimes start to toilet in the house, like they can hold their movements, but they just do one on the floor because they do. If you notice any of these symptoms and you think your dog might be a little bit confused in life, take them to the vet. There is often medication that you can give to help improve these symptoms. You can't unfortunately reverse the effects of dementia, just like you can't in humans, but we can help with the symptoms, so do feel free to ask your vet about some kind of medical help. Some of my hobbies and interests. Okay, so do you want the long answer or the short answer? The short answer is too many, and the long answer is let's go through the list. So I make cosplays as a pretty solid side hobby, including mascot suits, full-blown game outfits and things like that, dresses, cat bodysuits, a lot of different things really. I really love making things like tails and ears and things like that, and accessories. I love making accessories, and my next big cosplay is going to be making something with armor in it made out of warbler, which I'm really excited to try. I also really like to do archery. I like to ski. I wouldn't call myself a gym bunny, but I do like to do a bit of cardio, specifically Just Dance. It's my cardio of choice. I love it. Obviously, YouTube is a hobby at the moment. Veterinary is still my main job. I do TikTok. I'm not a big gamer, but I have a huge collection of books. I love to read. I do like to occasionally play games, but it tends to revolve around Spyro, Pokemon, and like, that's it, really. Oh, and Dragon Age, obviously. I also run an Etsy store, if you're not familiar, called Sheep and Turtle. You can find it in my description down below. Basically what I make on there is a whole bunch of different things like resin jewelry, keychains, key charms, some Pokemon themed, some butterfly, animal themed. I also make dice, including some 3D Pokemon dice. So, you know, if you want to check it out, I would be flattered if you wanted to. I love a good nature ramble. I like to go cycling. I love music of any description. I play the piano loosely. I taught myself, no grades or anything. I'm a hell of a singer. I will sing anything. I'm constantly singing throughout the day. Like in the car, it's just one permanent karaoke session. I can't speak for the quality.
All this good time we had together.
I'm also a very big plant enthusiast. I have a very big plant collection, but that's some of my hobbies anyway. I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting about, but I like to keep myself busy. I don't sit still. I'm not a sit still and scroll on phone kind of girl. Any future tattoo ideas? Several. Some of the ideas I have planned though are a miraculous ladybug tattoo featuring some of the miraculous gems. Don't know where, don't know what it'll look like, don't know. A Spyro tattoo, probably including the one-up life butterfly in the jar with like an egg, an orb, and maybe a crystal dragon or something, I'm not sure. I would love to get a tattoo by a guy called Lukovnikov. His profile can be found here. He does the most incredible double exposure tattoos, and I specifically would like a stag bust with the seasons going through it. I think it would be so beautiful, and I would like that on my back. Kind of hankered after getting a fennec fox, like double exposure savannah one as well for like a shoulder blade, not sure. I'd love to get a cat made out of plants, like a vine cat or something. And I also have a Dragon Age Origins piece designed and ready to go, but I have yet to find an artist that fits the style that I would want to get it done in, that is not thousands and thousands of pounds. I think I'm just going to have to confess that I'm going to need to spend thousands of pounds to make it look good, but I don't have thousands to spend on a tattoo. It's sad, I would love it, but you gotta get it done right. My most unbelievable consult. There's been a lot, what can I say? I do remember when I was still training. So this guy walks in and he had this very old but very fat and overweight boxer. The boxer was darling, very sweet, and the gentleman with him was opinionated, I think is probably the best way to describe this gentleman. But this guy couldn't understand why his dog constantly was having diarrhea and occasional vomiting and why it was overweight. And when we sort of finally nailed down past the basics of where did you get this dog? From a friend. What friend? Friend from down the road. Did he come with any vaccines? I don't know. It really was that kind of consult. It was really like sort of against a brick wall. Real hard. But eventually we nailed down to the diet and we said, what do you feed him? And he said, oh, I get him meat from the butcher. And we're like, okay, what kind of meat? Good meat.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boy.
Sir, please, I'm on my knees. What kind of meat? What cut of meat? Tripe. Anything else? Nope, just tripe. Is there any reason, sir, you are feeding your dog just tripe? For anyone unfamiliar with what tripe is, it is the edible, in air quotes, content of the stomach of ruminants like sheep, goats, or cows. Ruminants being animals who have 4 stomach chambers, being the rumen, the reticulum, the omasum, and the abomasum. You can eat the inside of the lining of these things, apparently. But we said to this guy, could you please maybe explain your reasoning behind giving him just tripe? Oh, it's fairly cheap and it seems to fill him up. And we said, but it's not a complete diet. It's very likely the cause of his vomiting and his diarrhea. What do you mean it's not a complete diet? It's not a complete diet. What do you mean it's not a complete diet though? It completely fills you up. Sir, I don't know how to explain this to you any clearer. You know what? I was in such a coma of cope at that point, here seeing this poor vet trying to explain to this client why just tripe wasn't a complete diet for his dog. I think in the end, I don't even think the message went across, but it sounds like you've made it up for a sitcom and there is no way of coming back from that one. Vet school revision tips, please. I'm struggling. Girl, same. I struggled through vet school too. Biggest tip I would say is don't try and just copy everything out. Try and make the notes that you're given for lectures as concise as possible. Make bullet point lists. Try and make the new notes yourself so you can read back on them. And I was a big fan of flashcards. Oh my god, they helped. I also made a bunch of posters, stuck them up around my house, in my kitchen, on my fridge. So if it was difficult to remember things like the antibiotics that are toxic to rabbits or something like that, or the stages of ovulation or something like that, I just stuck them up on the fridge, on the bookshelf, places I would look regularly. I remember I even had a post-it note for something on the kettle, but I cannot remember for the life of me what it was. It does seem to nail it in, but the biggest thing is everyone revises different, so you need to try different techniques and see what works. The hardest day I've ever had in my job, I've had several. The first anniversary of my father's passing, I decided to go to work and that was a complete mistake. Again, I will talk about that in another video, I think. But the other very hard day was the day where I had my maximum euthanasia number in a single day. It was a Saturday shift and I euthanized 6 animals in one day and 3 of them were back to back. The hardest thing about being a vet, there's a lot that's hard about being a vet. I'd say in terms of the job purely in of the job itself, one thing I always struggle with greatly is if we get a cat that's been brought in that has been killed on the road, we get a positive microchip identification, then I have to call the owner and tell them that their lovely cat has just been killed. That sucks. That is probably one of the worst jobs within the job that I have to do. I really don't like doing it at all, but I don't think it's a job for a nurse or receptionist. This is what we trained to do, what we signed up to do, so I don't think it's right that they should have to do it unless it's absolutely necessary. Doesn't mean I like doing it. It sucks. But the other hard things, I think, is just finding a work-life balance. I'm so lucky with the job that I'm in right now because I am able to get a good work-life balance, but so many vets don't achieve this and it can lead to burnout or so much worse, which again is a whole nother video topic in itself, but a work-life balance is really hard to get. What's been the strangest animal injury you've ever come across? Oh god, yes, I had one. It was out of hours and an owner called up in a huge flap saying, oh my god, my dog, his foot is stuck to his eye. Both me and my nurse sat there going, what? We said, what do you mean stuck to the eye? And they said his paw is just stuck to his eye. And I was like, how? The only thing I could conclude is that his claw must have got stuck in his face somewhere. But the owners were like, he's crying too much. We can't pick him up and have a look. Eventually they bundled him into a taxi. We said, bring him in. We'll have a look at him. And the dog came in. This poor flippin' dog, this poor dog had his dew claw stuck through his eyelid. I kid you not. He was one of these dogs that just had quite unfortunately short and sharp dew claws. He must have been pawing at his face and it had got stuck in his eyelid. Thankfully, it didn't take too much work to just unhook him, and thankfully the eyelid only had some scratching. It hadn't penetrated through the whole thing. So he went home with anti-inflammatories, pain relief, and some antibiotics just because it's a mucky foot and therefore an injury in a mucky area. And he was absolutely fine as far as I was aware, but that was foot stuck on eye. What a day.
Oh, what a day.
What are the best animals to work with and which ones do you not like working with? To be honest, the animals I like working with the least, purely from a personal perspective, are really young, lively animals because it's so difficult to do anything. Taking blood, placing an IV catheter, doing bandage changes, taking them out for walks, trying to keep them calm in the kennel when they're supposed to be in hospital, relaxing and healing from whatever it is, and they're bouncing all over the place, barking or crying. or, you know, if they're a cat, they're hissing and spitting and wanting to get out or everything. It makes your life so much more difficult. And the trouble is, they're babies, they're young, you can't be too mad at them. So you're like, oh God, please just calm down. Those are the ones I personally struggle with. The best animals to work with are the really calm, chill, placid, old animals that just sit there, let you do anything, they don't care, they don't hiss, they don't scratch, they don't bite. And if they come complete with a lovely owner, oh my God, you can guarantee the practice will know that animal and that owner on first name terms because they will love them. I have a female cat that is licking, pulling her hair out around her bum. Any advice? So I cannot and I will not be giving individual advice on veterinary cases on here, but there could be a few reasons why your cat might be pulling hair from their bottom. But as I say all the time, no matter what advice I give you here, you need a vet appointment. Like with a vet in person. I cannot be your vet. Go to your vet. But some possibilities that could be causing over grooming around the bottom, which is what she's doing. It could be stress. That can be a very common factor for over grooming in cats. It could be fleas if she's not been defleed, and fleas love to gather around the bottom. For some reason, it's just where they really seem to like as a hotspot. It could be blocked anal glands, which do happen in cats as well as dogs, and it's a fairly simple fix, but you do need to go to a vet for that one. It could be an infection. It could be joint pain because of arthritis. That can cause them to overgroom. There's a big old list, as you can see, so you really do need to go to your vets for a physical examination and have them checked up. How to weigh down a litter tray. My cat keeps perching on the edge like Spider-Man. Okay, so there are a number of different litter trays you can get out there. You can get litter trays that are just a plain plastic tray on the floor, probably the most common type. You can also get litter trays that are hooded, which I personally use for my cats quite commonly. Until recently, I've upgraded them to cat furniture. Cat litter box furniture. It's fantastic. They come in all shapes and sizes, and you just slide in a regular plastic tray inside and then shut it in. It disguises itself as furniture, keeps the litter tray in better, and it means it doesn't tip up like your cat must do. I personally use them for my cats, and the cats have no problem using them whatsoever. It's just a regular litter tray inside a box. So, you know, might be worth a try. How do I stop my cat from jumping on my head at stupid o'clock in the morning? Shut the door. You won't stop cat madness hour at 3 a.m. You're just gonna have to shut the door. Did you always want to become a veterinarian from a young age, or were there any other jobs? To be honest, I think I was pretty dead set on veterinary from the age of like 7 or 8 onwards. There were a couple of different factors that made me want to do it, including going to see the Body Worlds exhibit with my father, watching Super Vets, not the Super Vet, Super Vets. When I was a kid, watching Animal Hospital, and my own pet going through a medical emergency that he was eventually saved from. There are other careers I've considered, there are other careers I'd be interested in even now. I always think it's healthy to have a backup list should you, for whatever reason, not be able to continue the career you're in, because it's good to have a backup. I will always seriously consider being a paramedic as a very sensible backup career. I've also been tempted by the idea of being a therapist because I love the idea of being able to help people like that, and therapy has changed my life in so many ways, so I would love to be able to give that back. There was a period in time where I could see myself being an animator, but I've completely burnt out from animation, so that's gone. Could see myself potentially as a full-time cosplayer, like craftswoman, content creator, but it's a very difficult business to keep afloat with or make a lot of money with. And as for online content creation, yeah, if it makes money, cool, grand, fantastic. But while I can still be a vet, I'm gonna remain a vet because I'm not out of love with this job at all yet. And especially the specific job I'm in, I love it. Any top tips for new grads? New grad vets out there, if your first job is terrible, leave. I cannot express this enough. I stuck it out way too hard in an abusive first job, and it is not worth it. Leave. You are better than that, and there will be other places that can take you. Trust me, the profession is short on vets. Go and find another job. Don't stick it out for someone who is going to be a terrible boss and is going to treat you appallingly. It's not worth it. Weirdest item an animal has swallowed. I've seen a bunch of weird ones. I think probably one that sticks in my memory very hard was this small German Shepherd puppy. She was but 4 months old, so not much bigger than that really. And the owner said she swallowed a rawhide chew. I'm not a big fan of rawhide chews, it must be said. They are kind of a bit of a choking hazard. They're not very healthy for them. They're just all around not a great idea. There's so many other better things that they can be chewing on. Jerkies are honestly better, like stiff jerkies or nyla bones. But this dog had swallowed the whole thing. Again, a big danger of it. And this puppy came in and didn't look like there was anything wrong. And the owner was going, oh my goodness, she swallowed this whole thing. What are we going to do? And I said, well, we can induce vomiting, see if we can get the pieces out, thinking she's chewed it up and swallowed the pieces. What happened when I injected the apomorphine to make her sick was that this dog, considering she was about this big, the entire dog, what came out was a rawhide chew that long, this long, and too early as well. So full stretch it would have been that long. I was like, how did that come out of you? How? And it came up just like bleh. There was no other way of describing it. I just went, well, okay then. Biggest pet peeve you have as a vet? I think people just assuming that we're all in it for the money. I've never been rich from being a vet, and I never will be rich from being a vet, especially not just a regular first opinion vet or a regular first opinion emergency vet. I never will be rich. Some vets are rich because they've trained extremely hard hard for additional years to become specialists, but they are by far the minority. I don't know any really rich vets at all, apart from the ones who are doing other ventures, like having brand deals or doing media appearances or things like that, or having television shows or something like that. That's what makes the money, not being a vet. What's the best or funniest pet name you've had come in? A cat called Lord Louis Mountcatton. That name is going to be etched in my soul forever. What's my preferred area of veterinary medicine? What area do you think needs more focus generally? To be honest, there could always be more exotics vets because there's never enough and people are always kind of needing them. But as for my own personal preference, I am a big fan of emergency medicine. It's kind of just something I've accidentally ended up in, but I really like it. I really vibe with it. I love emergency surgery. I love emergency medicine. I just love the fast-paced nature of it. I love how it's unpredictable. I love how it's new cases every day. It's exquisitely impossible to be bored in emergency medicine. Like, it's absolutely impossible. How do I just not take all the animals home? Well, to be honest, I have 3 cats and they are more than enough. I can't afford to be having more animals in a not that massive of a flat. And not only that, like, I think these owners would quite like to keep their animals, so once you've seen one Labrador puppy, you've seen all 5,000 of them, if you know what I mean. Can the choking noise that chihuahuas make ever become dangerous for them? So what you're describing is very likely tracheal collapse, which is quite common in toy breed dogs or small breed dogs. It's where the cartilaginous rings that form up the shape and the structure of the trachea, instead of being nice and stiff and holding it open, which is what it should happen with most people, or most dogs, or most animals, with these dogs being so tiny and being bred to be so tiny, the cartilage basically hasn't caught up to size and strength, so when they breathe in sometimes, it collapses down. Think like a sock collapsing down, so every time there's pressure, it does this, and it causes this honking, choking kind of cough. Tracheal collapse can be very, very dangerous, so if you have noticed your dog making that choking, honking cough, film it if you can, and take it to your vet. It may be that your dog needs surgery to fix that. It is fixable, but the surgery is usually referral level, unfortunately. My dog has a few lumps that are quite hard. Any ideas on what they could be? Thanks in advance. Again, I cannot diagnose your dog over the internet. If you have any concerns about anything that is growing in your dog, please take them to the vet. We can take a number of different samples conscious, including something called a fine needle aspirate, or an FNA. Basically involves sticking a syringe with a needle attached onto the end into the lump, drawing up the syringe, going in and out, in and out, in and out, and sort of getting a representative sample of cells, squirting the cells onto a slide, sending the slide off to an external laboratory where they assess it and give as best of an approximation of what these cells can be. Sometimes these tests come back completely conclusive, sometimes they come back with a good idea of what it could be, and sometimes they come back completely inconclusive. It depends on the mass, but it really is a very good starting point, and it's a cheap, relatively cheap test anyway to identify what a mass could be. So if you have concerns, please go to your vet and get a test done. My dog got put down this evening. Does it hurt or they just genuinely fall asleep? I'm sorry to hear about your dog for a start. I'm very sorry. I hope you're coping okay. This Q&A was a little while ago, so I hope you're processing your grief and you're doing all right. In terms of euthanasia, yes, it is completely painless. If you have ever had an anesthesia, when it's induced, it's like falling asleep but with no control. So you feel yourself falling asleep, but you have no sensation of falling asleep. It just very rapidly descends into blackness. If you've ever passed out, again, very similar sensation. You just sort of feel a bit dizzy, a bit woozy, and then suddenly the world goes black. Exactly the same for euthanasia. They don't feel anything at all. Sometimes the drug that is administered into the leg can be a little bit cool sensation-wise, like a little bit of a slightly chilly sensation, but it's nothing unpleasant. It just feels a little bit weird. So sometimes you might notice them moving their leg a little bit, but it's like, ooh, what's that? But it doesn't hurt at all. So please don't be afraid of your animals being in any kind of pain when they're euthanized. If anything, we euthanize to get rid of pain. Am I a veterinary nurse or a full vet? Either way, thanks for doing amazing things. I am a full vet. I would aim the camera over there at my dissertation, but I don't want to dox my full name. But yes, I am a full vet. I trained for 5 years at the Royal Veterinary College. I don't mind saying that at all. I've been a vet for 5 years. Hello. Do any animals creep you out, like tarantulas or snakes? I don't think so. I'm not the biggest fan of spiders, it must be said, but I've never treated one. In terms of animals I'm actually afraid of, there's only one. Wasps.
I've been stung by a wasp! I've been stung by a wasp!
Those can stay right away from me in summer. Other than your cats, best animal ever? Peacocks. Don't at me, they're my favourite animal. Everyone thinks it's cats, it's peacocks. How often do I work with budgies? Overnight? Very rarely. When I was doing days, it was still rare, but you'd occasionally get them to come in. To be honest, they only really come in usually when they're pretty unwell, which is quite sad. But it does happen. They're very difficult to treat though, and they have this really annoying habit where they sometimes will just keel over and die.
Wakey, wakey!
It's not happened to me, but it does happen, and I'm scared it will happen one day. Please, please, please don't let this happen to me. I don't know how I'd emotionally deal with a bird dying in my hand. Do you find it hard balancing what you can share online while being a vet? Absolutely. It is a constant stress, anxiety inducer, something that's constantly in the back of my mind. It is just something I always have to think about. But you kind of cannot really go too wrong if you think about the concepts of whatever you post online, assume everyone's going to see it, from your mother to your boss to your clients. So if you wouldn't want any of those three to see what you're posting, maybe don't post it. Remember that everything on the internet is always going to be there forever. No matter how hard you try and delete it, once it's up, it's up. So it's always better to think twice about something rather than post it and take it back down again. And just remember that what you post is representing the profession that you're part of. So you just have to kind of think, okay, would I want other vets to be associated with this? Maybe, maybe not. If it's a matter of taste, so whether some vets would be into cosplay or something, that's not a thing. But you know, you wouldn't catch other vets online being too keen about someone sitting there and hurling insults at someone. In fact, that can start to become a breach of the code of conduct for professional misconduct and bringing the profession into disrepute. So yes, it is a big worry constantly, but I'm doing my best to try and make myself A, as humanized as possible as a vet, but also be professional and approachable. My favorite dog breed. So controversially, it's not a very healthy breed and I would never own it because of the amount of health issues, and also I don't really want a dog. Don't shoot me, don't shoot me. I'm not really a dog owning kind of girl. I like dogs, I just don't want to own one. But my favorite breed is one that you may not have heard of, but if you have heard of it, good for you. A Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever. Best breed, it looks like a little fox. It's a little small version of a golden, but it's a bit more like reserved. They're usually really, really nice. I've only encountered like 2 in my whole career and neither of them were very nice, but the ones I've encountered that weren't in the veterinary setting were lovely. I love them. I think they're great. I think they're fantastic, but they are riddled with health issues, unfortunately. Have you ever seen a pet and known exactly what was wrong just by looking at them? I can one-up you. One's walked through the door, I haven't even opened the consult room door, I've heard it and known exactly what it is. Unfortunately, there is a condition called thromboembolisms, which is where a cat, specifically usually, will have a heart problem that is undiagnosed. A clot will form in the heart, break away from the heart, and then get lodged in one of the vessels in the peripheral of the body. So usually one of the hind legs or sometimes in the back, and it causes pretty much immediate cell necrosis and death, leading to this leg or the back or both back legs. And it is excruciatingly painful, and unfortunately there is no cure. But you always know when a cat has had a thromboembolism, unfortunately, because they come into the practice screeching. There is a really specific screech for a cat that has had a thromboembolism. So they walk through the door, you hear the symptoms over the phone and you go, that sounds very much like it. They come through the door, you hear them and you go, yeah, thromboembolism. I don't even need to touch them, and every single time I've been right. It's really, really sad. It's really sad. What's my long-term goals in the vetting world? To last as long as possible, I guess. I would like to get more experience with emergency medicine. I'd like to get maybe a few more qualifications in there, but at the moment I'm so busy and preoccupied with like my own personal adventures with Etsy shop and cosplay and doing online content creation that I kind of don't have time for it. I would very much like to continue to raise public awareness about issues in the veterinary profession and educating the public on veterinary topics, which is kind of the whole point of this YouTube channel. What color will my hair be next? To be honest, I'm very likely to stick with this for a while. I'm totally infatuated with the black and white vibe. I really love it. I changed from red to black in June of 2022, and yeah, I've been in love with it ever since. I don't see myself changing from it. It's such a convenient color. My hair has been in better health ever since I dyed it black. The blonde at the front is just a nice bit of, you know, flash of interest. And finally, a very good, very solid ending question. As a vet, what is your favorite meal deal crisp sandwich combo? I hope you don't mean putting the crisps inside the sandwich, because contrary to what some people enjoy, I personally find it revolting. Chip sandwich, absolutely. Chip butties are legendary. Crisp sandwich? No. I'm sorry. Spiky. I can't deal with the spike and the soft. It's the roof of the mouth danger. But anyway, the meal deal combo of choice, if I have the availability, hoisin duck wrap, delicious. It's not always available, but delicious. If that's not available, tuna mayo. Tuna mayo and cucumber, delicious. It's good. It's simple and good. Crisps has to be McCoy's salt and vinegar. And as for the side piece, if they have a mini sushi, absolutely that. If not, then usually one of the fruit pots. If they have mango, I'm all over that like a rash. I love mango. And as for a drink, it's nearly always a Dr. Pepper Zero. Or if it's not a Dr. Pepper Zero, it's a Coke Zero. And if it's not a Coke Zero, I might cry. Sometimes I'll treat myself to a smoothie. The Bolt from the Blue for Innocent is probably one of my favorites ever. And that, I think, is pretty much all we've got time for in this video, because this is going to get long otherwise. But thank you for joining me. I hope these questions were entertaining, interesting. If you want to look out for my next Q&A video and you want to ask me something specific, please go to my Linktree and have a look for my Instagram, my Twitter, or my TikTok, because I could be doing Q&As on any of those. So if you stick around for all three, you'll see when the next one's announced. And if you'd like to subscribe, I would really appreciate it. A big thank you as well to my Patreons as well. Y'all are fantastic. And as always, guys, look after yourselves, look after your pets, and most of all, look after your vets. Hope you have a good day. Bye!
Thank you to all my patrons who have been supporting me, a big thank you to my Inner Sanctum fang, and a massive thank you to my God tier fam. Thank you to Pat Marsden, Joseph H., Pompoko, The Druid, Tim F., Billy Campbell, Connor Coombs, Scott Ballinger, Jordan, Dan Baker, It Was a One, Adam Fox, Joshua Paget, Jason, Stephen Thomas, Peter, Oliver, Evil Koala, The Nat G, Andrew Ayers, Andrew Calloway, Niall Cadden, Keith Swinton, M13, Elizabeth Smith, Travis, Callum, and Jackman. You guys are fantastic and your support means more than I can ever express.